carrying on to part 2 then. We are going to go through how to level up before we continue on with the walkthrough. So anybody just joining us then, we have obviously progressed along a few of the graces. You can see we've pretty much just followed the arrows and we've ended up at the Gatefront Ruins. And I've waited to rest here so that you guys can see what's going to happen. Now, my understanding is this happens after resting at so many graces. So just make sure you rest at each grace along the way, and Melina should appear to you. Go ahead and watch the cutscene, I'll skip past it. So we'll cut back to the decision, and I have to say, make sure that you press accept. If you don't, it's a restart, unless you want to play the game without leveling up. So anyway, she's talking about, obviously, turning runes into strength, all this other stuff. Now I went ahead and killed a few enemies just so I could show you guys doing a level up and how this looks. But now that we have Melina, we now have our new... We now have our very new part of the menu here, which I'm sure you guys are going to love. Okay, so the way this works is, you can see at the top there, can I move? No, I can't move anything up there. You can see at the top there we have runes held, 897. Runes needed 757, and I can go ahead and use those to level up any one of my stats. So it is up to you guys which one you want to get through first. If you're playing as a mage, intelligence is going to be good for damage. Realistically speaking, if you're playing a caster, this can be a good place to put your points in. But generally speaking, and this is probably what makes mages more squishy than other builds, especially early on. If you're playing a melee character, once you have the base stats that you need to wield the weapons that you want, you'll get most of the damage from upgrading them anyway. You will get scaling and it will give a significant amount of damage when you put a lot of points here, but a lot of people are going to get way more mileage out of other stats rather than damage, whereas for casters, the requirements of your stats are much higher for the different spells that you'll want. I think the highest one, which I think is Ranni's Dark Moon, is like 68 intelligence just to use it. So just bear in mind this will have to reach 70 if you want to have like a full amount of spells eventually. I am banned from Strength and Dexterity. I could take 1 point of Endurance to help me equip a little bit more gear, but I really want to get my blue bar above my green bar because I want to look more like a mage than anything else. So I'm going to go with the crazy option. I'm going to go with one in mind. So going to allow me to cast a few more spells. Realistically speaking, we need our blue flasks to start recovering more FP as soon as possible. The reason for this is, and I'm going to show this now, if I expend all of my magic here, right, it's cool that I've got a nice and much bigger FP pool to start with. However, you only get that full bar once, right, naturally. However, then we get to use our blue flask to recover it, and I'm only recovering that far, which means that last little bit there is kind of useless in between flasks. So realistically speaking, you want to have it so that your flask is basically perfectly recovering the blue bar. The number for that is once your flasks are at maximum level, they'll restore 220 FP. So that means you want 220 FP as your natural base stat, and that is going to be a mind of 40 for all of the casters out there. With those bits talked about then, and I don't think there's too much else with the grace that I need to talk about, should I say. And I think I'm going to try and calm down a bit. I'm getting a bit anxious and I'm getting a bit quick, and I feel like I'm missing stuff I could otherwise be talking to you guys. Let's talk about memorizing spells. Again, if we're going to be following this as a caster, this is how you put your spells on. Obviously, I only have 2 spells right now. We'll be fixing that pretty shortly, though. Hopefully, no, there's no hopefully about it. The vendor for spells is pretty close. In addition to that, we got the call for the spectral steed given to us. Now, what I recommend doing, I like to have it just here. Okay, so in fact, mine actually goes on the up button. So we're going to go ahead into here. So for me, this is pressing triangle or Y, and then we can put on the spectral steed whistle. Now what happens is, if you press that same button that we used to switch it on, so for me it's triangle on the PlayStation controller, we can now summon Torrent, and we can get on and off. Cool thing here is, if you press your L3 button whilst you're moving, you can make a jump off, which is kind of cool, and you can even do a jumping attack from that, which is just real useful to know about when it comes to controlling the horse. Next to then, we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to clear this, but I wanted to show something else before we actually do this, and that's this little marker you can see just above where it says Gatefront Ruins. There's this little pillar looking thing. that always denotes where you can find the map fragment. The map fragment is going to actually unveil the map for us. So let me just fight my way through here. Hello. I shouldn't really get into close combat, but it's not too bad right now. It's worth noting as well, if an enemy hasn't detected you yet, you'll get a small damage boost to the attacks that you're going to make. We're going to loot this. I think this is the... There's two weapons here and I can't remember the name. I think this is the mace. No, it's the Lord Sworn's greatsword. I haven't done a video on that. I don't feel like I need to. Now, we need to be careful here because there is a guy. I think I've actually already killed him. There is a guy that carries a horn. And if he sounds that horn, he's going to encourage all of the enemies around here to come and mob us, which we don't really want. So you can see we've got the map fragment. Once that's been found, let me just find somewhere a little safer. We can now see a little bit more detail of the map here. This isn't always perfectly accurate. I actually kind of like this as a feature, but in Limgrave, though, it is usually quite accurate, and it even displays some things in Limgrave that aren't always displayed in on other maps. We'll go over that in a bit because I can't actually see one right now. I think all of the graves are a little bit off from where we are. But we effectively want to clear the Gatefront ruins, and we're going to head our way east so that we can pick up the flask of physic, which is something else. It's going to be completely alien and jargon to those that don't know what it is, but it's going to be worth it anyway. Right, so just clearing out the rest of this camp then. There's a couple just on this back end. Luckily these aren't particularly evasive enemies. We are going to want to get the... There are some knight versions of the pebble that we're using right now, which enemies are less likely to detect and so less likely to avoid. There are some enemies that's important for. Move over here. Now I'm going to try and do things kind of in a clearance manner. I'm sure there's lots of people that thinking in their head, like, if you played the game before, there are other things we could be doing right now, such as, like, if we run up here is a golden seed, and actually I did a guide on, where is she from there? So there's a golden tree here, and there's a lady just here, and if you make her progress her quest line, you can actually get 2 golden seeds right there. But for now, I just want to clear things in order so that things aren't too confusing to people and that it's nice and easy to follow. So we want to come across the other side. This is the more important thing around here because it should be, I think it's the standard wet blade. This is going to allow us to change the Ashes of War or weapon arts on your weapons. Where are you? Should be a little bit that looks like it's going downstairs. You don't have to fight everything here, but I just feel like it's a good idea to get used to the combat. I'm going to get hit here. No, I didn't. Haha. I feel like we're seeing the advantage of the lightness there. So I haven't demonstrated it, but effectively the lighter it says your equip load is, the further your roll. And that's going to be important for us as the mage because we really want to make sure we can get away when something closes in on us. It didn't do as much damage as I thought they were going to do. You can tell it's the beginning area. Enemies do obscene amounts of damage later on. Now then, where is it? Here we are. I didn't realise it was exactly where the dogs were. Finish you off. Just save that FP. I already see stamina is going to be a problem. We may be forced into using the turtle talisman. Again, more jargon. So that's the talisman that makes stamina recover faster, which is looking quite essential to us right now. So you want to come down, open this door. This is where we're going to get our wet blade. This is how you change your Ashes of War. So if we wanted, we can actually equip that Storm Stomp there onto our short sword, but it's really not what I want right now. We do actually have 1,000 runes. That makes me kind of want to make Melina Appear. Maybe we should do like a setup part of this walkthrough. Maybe we should. Although getting the physic is setup. Excuse me, sir. So this guy is obviously kind of the hard one out of all of the enemies that are here. That's kind of why we've left him until last. Particularly with that big shield. Come on. No, sir, no. Not used to having such a long roll. Literally out of flasks. This is going to be tougher than I thought. Preserving FP could be an issue. Now, if it gets to nighttime right now, I heavily advise making it daytime. The direction we're about to go in does have a rather tough enemy on the road, and we don't want that to be there. So let's make this morning. Obviously, we've now cleared the gatefront ruins. I think that's what this is called. And this is a really good place to test out weapons or anything else that you want to do. The enemies aren't too bad, and you can kind of just see how things are going to handle for you. So now, we're just going to run past all of this, and we're going to go straight for an important item called the Flask of Wondrous Physic. We can't really do too much with it right now, especially with this build, but it will be fairly useful. Always collect these smoldering butterflies. They can be real useful when it comes to crafting. For some reason, it gives us an extra grace here. So we have a grace on either side of the gatefront ruins. I guess maybe if you've skipped a grace or something and you haven't had Melina appear yet, you could in fact use it to make her appear a little bit quicker. So we're going to come along the road. We're just going to follow it. Now, it will eventually veer right, but we want to take the left path, which should probably get you. So this is Bok. I'm really not too bothered about him. And make sure you don't miss the Altaria leaf. I guess I didn't realize that one was going to be there. Altaria leaves are actually more important than I realized they were in my first walkthrough. So we're going to skip this guy's dialogue as I talk about that. But they are important for perfume crafting later on in the game. So when you get those, just make sure you save them. I don't know where every single one of those is in the game, but I do have a farming spot. Even if the farming spot is quite late game, that's basically an end game material that we're just getting a little bit of as we're going through the game. Might as well take this down. Oops. Excuse me. Excuse me. No, it's going to disappear on me. There we go. Determination. Oops. Obviously, try not to run into hordes of enemies. I guess right now we can show our other spell off. There we go. That's just telling us that if you defeat groups of enemies in the overworld, you can get your flasks replenished, which is real nice. The sad thing about the Altaria leaf we picked up though is that that doesn't respawn, so that is classed as kind of like a special item, and we'll have to actually farm that from an enemy later on. So it doesn't look too obvious, but the path does split on the left here, and that's the direction we want to be taking for now. There's a grace down here which is going to be useful to us before we come back this way, probably in the next episode, to face a boss. But we're going to have to do a couple of things, I think, before we do that. Right, so yeah, we're just going to head on all the way down here. Oh, it should be a grace, actually. Where is it? On the right hand side. They're usually mostly obvious, but some of them they hide fairly well. I know it's around here because you can use it to farm this area. That there is where you want to farm the falchion if you want it. My character's not going to be able to use that, but it's a fairly modest curved sword. It's not the best one and probably isn't overall worth it. But if you want kind of a weapon upgrade because you're using a curved sword or something right now, that's where you can get one from. I'll show where the enemies are. We've got Kenneth Height on top of there as well. We could go and talk to you now and get your quest started. Let's do that. Let's do that. Yes, me. So go ahead and exhaust this guy's dialogue and agree to his quest. And with that done, we can continue on down the road. This just kind of saves us some time later on. I want to try and make sure we're just clearing things out as we are moving along all of the different areas. That's what people said they wanted anyway. When I put a poll on the channel, they said clear the areas out in order rather than nipping off into random directions. So that's kind of what I'm going to go with. There is stuff you can run for, and you know, I could get quite carried away with the things we could actually reach out and grab. And I don't know, I feel like that might just spoil things a little bit. So here we are, piece of grace. Two things here that are mega important. First one is the Flask of Wondrous Physic. And we can equip that now. It's not the best right now because we don't have too many ingredients, but that is going to eventually give us a 30% damage buff for 3 minutes and a short burst of unlimited FP, which is very powerful when mixed with certain abilities in the game. But now let's go over how this works. So we now have the Mixed Wondrous Physic option. You come in here, you put your ingredients in, and then that is what the physic is going to do. So right now we can actually restore 50% of our health with the physic, which is kind of useful. Whilst we're here, you're going to want to grab this. This is the Sacred Tea. This is how... Oh, sorry about the hiccup there. This is how you upgrade how much the flasks will recover for you. Oh, and they put a little marker on it when you can actually do... Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that they put that there. Yes, that's a new part of the update that they did today. So that means that there's something relevant to do. And I didn't know there was a relevant thing to do with Melina here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that. Well, that was kind of cool. So with that done then, you should be able to see on here, the very short distance away, we can actually see that there is another map fragment for us to collect. And I feel like that is a good thing for us to do. Now you can see on my compass marker here that I've got a lot of these markers building up. I find the quickest way to get rid of them, because there isn't a reset them all, is to make it look just a line of them like this, so you can get rid of them. Ooh. Then place the one that you actually want to have. Which is where we're going to go. Now you do want to be careful down here. There are some enemies called rune bears. They are one of my least favourite enemies in the game. Mostly because I just think their moveset is a little bit unfavourable in my opinion. So we'll just grab it and run on past them. Technically this is a bit of a spur on the video, but I feel like it's good and it's relevant for now. We'll end up coming back and clearing a lot of this area later on. So there it is just on the left. We'll grab that. And we're just going to continue going down. Luckily these don't really aggro on us too badly here. There's a fair amount that we can do. I'm just thinking now. Are we gone to nighttime already? Here, Mr. Wolf Boy. If we just go ahead and listen to that happening. We could collect everything from me. Let's do that. Let's do that. So you want to, if you want to be quick about this, you can just jump on into here like this, look. And the bear can't really grab you, which is real nice. Because we've been here, that's going to give us a new interaction with Carly, which is kind of handy, because that means we can do that now. We can do this bit now, should I say. Go down to the Southern Grace, and then we'll be coming back here later anyway, so I feel like that actually works out real nice. I apologise I'm doing a lot of this kind of off the cuff. I know which order I want to do a lot of the most important kind of missable stuff in. But I'm doing this kind of differently to how I did my original notes, where we did a lot of spurring out and grabbing all sorts of stuff before we actually cleared the area. So I guess we'll see how methodically clearing the area compares to that, just based on kind of the order in which we come across each of the areas. So over this way we'll have another grace. Where are we? So we'll go ahead, we're going to tag this. And then I'm going to nip on up the hill here, and you need to be careful. If you're carrying a lot of runes and you're worried about losing them, obviously if you die, you'll leave your runes on the ground. And maybe spend them right now, but I'm not too worried myself. But basically if we just come up here, there will be a gold seed we can pick up. So that's going to be 1 extra flask for us, which is a nice little boost at this point of the game. So we're just going to come on over here, grab this, and then go back down to where our flask was. Not our flask, our grace, should I say. We'll get that used, and that's going to close this video out, which is real nice. I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys want to see me doing things like this, or if me just saying I'm going to upgrade my flasks now, and you guys are fine doing that without watching me do it is fine. I didn't realise just how open that was in there. Okay. That's funny. Right, so that is going to close out this video. In the next one then, because in the next video then we've covered getting the flask, how to use the flask, and how to level up. In the next video we're going to cover how to summon and get our first early game summons, and at the same time as doing that we're going to get ourselves the 2 seeds I spoke about earlier at the beginning of this video, because it's just a good idea to do that. So we will be picking up from Church of Ella. I'll see you guys there in the next episode.